and welcome to Sunday Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's Commercial Nerve Center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzam, and of course, we will be bringing you up to speed with what's been going on in the polity at the weekend, and loads of things happening, but we will just condense a few of them and make sense of the situation with our guest on the show today. But I must ask, how you doing and holding up given the situation of our country and the economy? It's 7 days down the line into a new month in the second half of the year, maybe 6 months from now, we're going to say Happy New Year to yet another year. So it's good to take stock as an individual, just as the government is taking stock of its management of our resources. We'll find out how well they are doing that, by the way, on the show at some point on the program. But let's tell you first what happened today. The President, Bola Tinubu, has been re-elected as the chairman of the ECOWAS Community of West African States, ECOWAS, about 1 year after he took over the leadership of the regional bloc. The Nigerian leader who rose to power in May 2023 was re-elected as the ECOWAS chairman during the 65th ordinary session of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government. That event took place at the presidential villa in Abuja today. During his opening remark at the summit, President Tinubu asked ECOWAS member states to make financial commitment to help the battle against terrorism in the region.
A peaceful and secure society is essential for achieving our potential. As we move to operationalize the ECOWAS Standby Force, ESF, in combating terrorism, I must emphasize that the success of this plan requires not only strong political will, but also substantial financial resources. We must, therefore, ensure that we meet the expectations and recommendations set forth by our ministers of defense and finance in order to counter the insecurity and stabilize our region. Member states must make extra commitment on providing resources for stabilizing the region. To this end, I urge ECOWAS to leverage on the capability of the Nigerian National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, which is widely acknowledged as one of the best on the continent. The Nigerian government has decided to declare the NCTC as a regional center.
President of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu, giving his remark there at the ECOWAS meeting, obviously absent were Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. And you know the reason why. Since the coup that occurred in those countries, they've been at a collision course with the regional bloc, which is one of the challenges of the region, given the surge of takeover of power or disruption of constitutionally recognized authority across the bloc. And they've been at loggerheads since then. Cohesion is a big issue within the regional bloc. Some are saying it's getting weaker. Some are saying something has to be done urgently, which is why the president is saying all hands must be on deck, including political will and financial commitment to help the region fight terrorism. But let's come back home to our local issue. A union in the country is firing a warning shot. The national leadership of the non-academic staff of universities, NASU, and the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, have directed their members at state level to embark on a nationwide protest on Tuesday, July the 9th, to demand for the payment of withheld 4-month salaries by the federal government. In a statement jointly signed by the president of SANU, Mr. Mohammed Ibrahim, and that of SANU, NASU and SANU, rather, Mr. Peters Adeyemi, notes that their engagement with the Minister of Education and his counterpart at the Labour Ministry have not shown any convincing commitment on the part of government to pay the withheld salaries. The statement further directs all branches of NASU and SANU to mandatorily hold a general meeting tomorrow, Monday, July the 8th, 2024, to sensitize members on the development and the need to protest against the situation. And so that's the situation we have in our hands. So let's break it down for you what they are doing. They are holding a meeting tomorrow. I'm talking about NASU and SANU. On Tuesday, at all the state levels, 36 and the FCT, they will be holding protest. And then on Thursday, they'll be converging on the nation's capital, Abuja, for what they call the national protest, which is why we call it a warning shot. When you see unions move like this, it's to put pressure. And if they don't get what they want, the next port of call will be to call for a strike, which they've been warning because of those withheld salaries. Well, those are part of the conversation we'll be having today in part of our State of the Polity. We've been joined in the program by the Senate spokesperson and Senator representing Ekiti South Senatorial District, Senator Adaramodu Yemi. He joins us from Abuja studio. Senator, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Oh, thank you very much. Good evening, and good evening to my fellow compatriots and patriots, Nigerians.
Senator, I think a good place to start is your take or reaction to what we have on our hands, which is the issue of this strike. We've seen intervention even by the National Assembly. Some has yielded results, some has not yielded results. In your view, as a quick take before we go to other issues, what can Nigeria do to make sure that issue of incessant strike, those words are deliberate because strike or protest happens everywhere, but this has been too repetitive within the academic sector.
Yes, thank you very much, my very dear brother. Yes, we see it that this current agitation by NASU and SANO is just a cumulative from a former government's actions and inactions. So it's not an occurrence that has been occasioned by the current government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And then government is a continuum. And definitely it means that whatever SANO, NASU or ASU, whatever they are demanding for, are very genuine and germane. And protest or strike is a civil way of asking questions from employers, the federal government. And we believe that the Federal Ministry of Education will not allow it to escalate. They will call them to a round table for them to judge. So instead of war. And then if there is any need for the National Assembly to come into it, as we have always been coming into such matters, then the National Assembly will come into it, and then I'm very sure that at the end of the day, the best solution to it will be found. That of ASU, that was how it was raised then, and then National Assembly, even at the night National Assembly, there were many times that the National Assembly legislators then had to even intervene. And where we were today, even where ASU is now, about maybe that kind of monuments and salaries that we had then, and I'm very sure that they have collected theirs, and whatever happens to that of NASU and SANO, I'm very sure that the Federal Ministry of Education will look at it, then do the needful where it is necessary. And by the time they come together this week, so if there's any need for the National Assembly to educate, to come into it, definitely we will come into it, because we represent the people put us here, and ASU and NASU and SAN members inclusive. So definitely we will not allow anything to fester. Because this time around, all hands must be on deck. We must make sure that any facet, any sector of our developmental district must be guarded seriously, jealously, especially education, where our youth are seriously concerned. So we must not allow it to degenerate into a situation whereby it's going to be another spate of very long strike, whereby students will be driven back home to their parents again. No, we are not going to allow it. It's not going to happen. And I'm very sure that NASU and SANO will be very reflective of this one. They are going to be very reflective, very patriotic. They have been very understanding. They have been very understanding, quite understanding for that matter. And this time around, there is not going to be very different from what we have been having before, when we intervened, and when, even before our intervention, that a truce was found. And then there is peace in the
all right, if I may button on this, from my last count, since 1999 till date, ASU, for instance, has had over maybe 16 strikes. if you count the number of days, it's over 4, maybe 4.5 years cumulatively. So that's how much they've lost in terms of academic calendar due to industrial action. And the National Assembly, whether it's the House of Reps or the Senate, which you are seated in, are supposed to oversight this ministry. The language they use is that they are not seeing enough commitment that convinces them that the government is serious, both from the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Labor. And we know what the budget looks like for the Education Ministry. So what can the National Assembly do to put pressure on government to attend to this as urgently as possible without necessarily waiting for it to fester? Because it festers before you come in.
Yes, you know, like I said earlier before this your question, is that, look, when a kind of situation like this is generated, maybe between NASU, SANO, and the Federal Minister of Education, we have to first of all wait. That is the National Assembly. And see to it that, okay, once there are problems between two sides, which we oversight, then we have to allow them, first of all, to talk, to sit together, to judge, to ask questions from themselves before we now just comment. Because, like in Africa, they will say, the person who is going to maintain the truth is not the one who is going to start, either the fight or the settlement of the fight. So definitely, the National Assembly, which we act as the ombudsman, which is going to act as the father of the two of them, that is the Federal Minister of Education and that of the Labor. So definitely, we are not going to start it. And this is the 10th Senate. This is the 10th National Assembly. So the 10th National Assembly was not the assembly that was there when, since 1999, there had been strikes or whatever. So this is the 10th National Assembly. And 10th National Assembly is where we are now. And that is the assembly that I'm talking on behalf of. And for us, since we have started last year, which is just about 1 year ago now, so you will know, you will follow the trend that whenever there is any dark kind of skirmish between either the Labor and then the federal government, we had always been coming in. Even the issue of NLC, we had come in. Even the issue of minimum wage, we are coming. And why did we come in? And is that we need stable polity. We need stable economy. We need even stable politics, where we even practice politics to bring us to the National Assembly. So we need it, even despite the fact that we are expecting the executive to come to us to give us an executive bill, whereby we are going to enact or promulgate a law that will establish the national minimum wage. We have even dabbled into it. So definitely the 10th National Assembly is very different from the other assemblies that have been coming when within what you said, 4.5 years, within about 25 years, that there have been strike here and there. But for us,
thing which, if I may butt in, sir,
we have never
I understand. I'm sure we understand you perfectly. I have my reason for asking that question, and this is why. We've had conversation across board with some of these unions and all of that. The reference is always to the National Assembly most of the time. When government comes to them and say, look at the fiscal challenges we're having. For the demands you're making, we could prorata or we may not be able to pay or whatever reason the government will give. They come back and say, members of the National Assembly go home with humongous amounts every month, and they don't know what they are doing as professionals in their own field, in their own right, with due respect to the National Assembly. So the question is the National Assembly sometimes sitting down to look inwards to ask themselves, why do people always refer to just hold on. Why do people always refer to us? Is there something you can do in terms of cutting costs of your own institution so that we can, transfer some of this money to attend to other issues? Just to be mild on this one.
Yes, thank you very much, my great brother. Look, we have 3 arms of government. There is the legislative arm, there is the executive arm, and there is the judiciary. Now, these 3 arms, they have their separate budgets. The budget of executive, that is where the issue of Minister of Education takes their own. That of the judiciary is where the courts and the other agencies under the judiciary take their own. Then that of the National Assembly is for the legislation. And so our budgets do not interwoven. So what is due to the legislation will not be used as a sacrifice to the executive. And then the issue at hand is about allowances and salaries of SANO and NASU members, which is not embedded in the budget of the National Assembly. So if they're asking for what belongs to them, I don't think it is the National Assembly that will now use their own emoluments or whatever, either overhead or capital, to satisfy that. So for this, don't let us mix all these things together. Now let us go straight to the issue of NASU, ASU, and SANO. Then ASU had been maybe answered to a very large extent. Then it now remains NASU and SANO. So now let us sit down to talk to NASU and SANO with Federal Ministry of Education. So if there's whatever we can do to make sure that there's not going to be any kind of labor dispute, that is where we are now on this one.
The thing
so
is,
the issue of saying that
if I'm a button, sir,
or a House of Representatives member, for him not to take a salary, that we have to use that salary to pay an arrears for a lecturer.
No, distinguished. We're not mentioning, just my apologies.
There are salary components. There are salary components. There are salary components in the budgets of the Federal Ministry of Education, which had been appropriated appropriately. And that
all right, distinguished. I don't want us to mix the
SANO
issues.
And NASU people will now.
Nobody is trying to take your salaries. Let's be very clear.
What are you saying? What are you saying?
Nigerians,
what are you saying?
Nobody is trying to take your salaries. Nigerians say that the National Assembly members, you're earning, the money you're getting for the job you're doing is too much. It is time to scale down and cut costs. So let me ask you a straight question. Because most of the, no, hold on, distinguished. Just hold on.
Mr. Journalist, Mr. Journalist, before you go on, Mr. Journalist, you are a journalist. Mr. Journalist, you are a journalist. Before a journalist can allege and agree and ask a question, then it means that you have done a great investigation. What is that money that the National Assembly members are earning, that it is impeding the progress of development in Nigeria? I have not seen.
So let me ask the question.
Because,
let me just ask the question.
Like I said.
Can I ask the question?
Like I said, the 2023 budget and 2024 budget, the budget of the National Assembly is not up to 1% of the whole budget. It's not up to. And the National Assembly is an arm of government. That is the legislative arm of government. It is not up to 1% of the budget. And so within this budget, that is where salaries of legislators are. That is where salaries of all the auxiliary staff in the National Assembly are. That is where either the bureaucrats, the technocrats, the support staff of the National Assembly, which are more than 20,000 or 50, even up to 50,000. That is where that one is. And it is less than 1% of the annual budget of the Federation.
Okay,
so
Senator, if I'm a button, so that we can jump to other issues. Just
that do the appropriation.
Just
are you now saying that the National Assembly that is doing the appropriation is not entitled to an
all right, if you allow me for a minute, distinguish, just hang on so that we can have a conversation. All right, I've been allowing you to talk, so you let me talk as well. So let me ask you straight questions. How much does an average senator go home with in a month? It's a direct question, so direct answer.
Yes, it's a direct question, and I will give you a direct answer. The direct answer that I will give you is that if I tell you it's 10 naira, you will not believe it. You are a journalist. There is Freedom of Information Act. Go and use it and find out and show the evidence openly to Nigerians so that no senator will come here or House of Representatives person will come here and deny it. That is the best way to get it.
It's not as if we don't have the number. You are the one that is earning the. No, it's not a.
Look,
it's not a combat. It's just a question.
If you tell me a figure, and I now dispute it, how are you going to?
All right, just give Nigerians a figure. I'm not going to say the figure I have, but give Nigerians a figure.
You assert must prove.
Your money is public money. We know how appropriation is done. It's a simple question. How much do you earn? Nobody's going to doubt your position.
When, my brother, when something becomes controversial, then the third party, which you are, the journalist, which you are now supposed to establish the veracity. You have to establish the truth. Please use that act, get to it, and just present it to Nigerians that this is what a House of Assembly, a House of Representatives, and the Senator earns. Not spurious allegations, because at times.
Distinguished, I don't want to belabor the issue. I knew why I asked that question. I know the budget of the National Assembly. We know how these expenditures are done. I wanted it to. You are the spokesperson of the Senate, so it's within your right to help us understand the things we don't know. So if we don't have that information, which we do, we'll ask you.
Whatever you don't know, whatever you don't know, you cannot bring somebody, an offender, to the court, and you are now asking from that offender to provide you with the evidence.
There is no offender. Senator,
so since the National Assembly member,
there's no offender here. I'm not going to divulge. So let's move on. Let's move on.
Assembly to provide you with the evidence. Is it possible? The evidence that is going to provide is going to be an evidence that will support his own story. So please.
So let me just ask you a question.
That will not support his own story.
Let me just ask you a question, distinguished. I want to move on so that I don't belabor the issue. I knew why I asked that question, and I know why I wanted a response from you, but you refused to answer the question. I'm going to come back to it. But let me ask you, isn't it time? Hold on.
Hold on. Hold on. To belabor it, please.
Hold on, no. I am the one asking questions.
Journalist, I want us to belabor it. I want us to rest this thing once for all. I want us to rest it once for all.
Distinguished, hold on.
The media people that can help us. It is you that can help Nigerians.
Absolutely.
That can help Nigerians.
All right, so I want to ask you.
Freedom of Information Act.
It's okay. Hold on. Distinguished, can you just hold on?
Write a letter to us. In fact, to the office of the clerk of the National Assembly. Ask.
Can I ask my question now, distinguished?
Ask.
Can I? Good. Isn't it time for us to begin to look at cutting cost of governance, which is actually the core of my question? I'll tell you why. If you look at what's going on in Kenya, it's a clarion call to the continent. Young people rose and they are demanding accountability. Simple economics says that when there's scarcity, we optimize. And by optimizing, we prioritize. On the scale of preference, we take out the things that are not necessary, at least that I don't need, that are not want, and we attend to things that I need. So in your view, despite your argument about your money and your payment, isn't it time for us to begin to cut costs from the side of government?
Thank you very much, my journalist.
My name is Jeffrey, by the way.
I'm happy that the government of President Tinubu has started to cut costs already by making sure that some agencies, some departments are arrested. Even some institutions are arrested so that we can streamline any agency, any department, any institution which have the same maybe roles assigned to it with other existing MDAs, that they are now streamlining them to one. So that one is a major way of cutting costs. Another major way of cutting costs, which I know that the government is doing, is that, one, like the Federal Minister for Works, just a few days ago, he told all Nigerians that, yes, there are so many roads that have been contracted before, which money had already been paid for. But the contractors refused to move on. The contractors moved on to the site. They did suka job. And they went away that they are going to revoke. The only thing is that don't revoke alone. Whoever has taken more than the money that he has utilized to do what he's supposed to do, prosecute that person. So these are ways of cutting costs. These are ways that the government can conserve funds. And then, now, let me tell you something. Some people, even in Nigeria here and all over, they were talking about, oh, the National Assembly, why do we have bicameral? Why do we have House of Representatives? Why do we have the Senate? That why can't we have only one? I said, okay, it is not bad. But even those climes that we want to emulate, let's look at it. In UK, they have 650 members in the Commons. In France, they have about 577. The population in UK is just about 1/3, even less than 1/3 of the population of Nigeria, and they have 650. But in Nigeria, both the House of Representatives and that of Senate, we have 469. Are we going to say that we are too many to make laws for Nigeria? In another way, some people are saying, oh, why can't the National Assembly be part-time? Yes, it is not bad. Why can't the executive be part-time? Do we need ministries that will be full-time? They can rule on phone. During COVID, we were in our houses and we were doing so many things. Then in the judiciary, then we can go to court only when it is necessary, when there are cases. So everybody will be part-time in Nigeria. Look, let us come to terms with what can make Nigeria great, what can progress Nigeria. It is not the National Assembly. It is not even the government per se alone. Now, we are talking about fuel matter. Even despite the fact that we are buying fuel at a very high prices, in the fuel stations, are petrol attendants not tampering with meters? Are they not? Are those people sent by government? Even ordinary code of conduct.
Senator Adamodu, if I'm a button,
see red light.
If I'm a button, if I'm a button this thing, because of time, I want to take us. There are so many questions I want to ask, but I'm totally almost out of time. It said the issue is about people in public service. I don't want us to be distracted.
Yes.
You can talk about the morality issue of Nigerians and all of that. That's another kettle of fish. We're talking about the people in government like you, whether you're in the legislature, whether you're in the judiciary, or you're in the executive. It's about accountability and managing the cost of governance. So let me ask you another question. Do you think that by the way the National Assembly has managed the affairs of the country in checking the executive, what do you think is the approval rating of the National Assembly in the eyes of the public?
Well, let me tell you something. The National Assembly cannot rate itself. That is one. Then two, the public must understand the roles of the National Assembly. 3 ways. 1, lawmaking. 2, advocating for your constituents. 3, oversight functions. And now, when we talk of lawmaking, you cannot say that the Nigerian National Assembly has failed. 2, when we talk about advocating for our constituents, we cannot say the National Assembly members have failed, because today, it is only the National Assembly members that even the constituents can even get across to. They are the ones that they can phone. They are the ones that we pay for this, we pay for that. They are the ones that we go home and the constituents will come around and ask questions. They are the ones that make the people of Nigeria, the public, to feel that, yes, some people are in government and they are our leaders, which we have voted for. That's about that one. Then the oversight. When we talk of oversight, mind you, ours is to appropriate. That is budgetary. And when you do budget, you as a media person And any good-spirited public man can hold that budget. It's a public document. Look at it. Look for your constituency. Look for your state. Look for your senatorial district. Mark it. This project, this project, this project. Then ask questions later. Maybe before the end of the year, before the end of the budget year. Ask that question.
All right, Senator Daramodu, if I'm a button, I just hold on, Senator. I've been asking you. Just hold on. Just hold on, sir. I asked direct question to get direct answer. My question was simple. What's the rating? What's your perception? It's a perception thing I'm asking. I'm not asking you for numbers. I'm just asking for perception. Well, and do you think Nigerians are happy, not too happy? That's my last question because I'm totally out of time. Just give me that answer.
For me, let me answer that. Let me answer that. I use myself as a standard, and I use myself as a point of contact. In my constituency and in my senatorial district, my constituents are happy with me, and I know that that is what will be happening in other constituencies.
All right, Senator. We must wrap up the conversation.
As a standard for the rest.
We must wrap up.
And because I'm from Ekiti South, I'm from Ekiti South Senatorial District.
Oh boy.
I'm not from Akwa.
Senator, we're totally out of time.
South.
Senator Daramodu Yemi, can you hear me, sir? Okay. I'm fine. I'm happy you can finally hear me. So my question was National Assembly. It has nothing to do with Ekiti South. Is your verdict for yourself? But you're the spokesperson of the National Assembly.
We are talking about
hold on, sir. Just hold on.
We are talking about perception.
You're the spokesperson of the You're the spokesperson of the Senate, so I expect you to speak on behalf of the Senate, not on behalf of yourself. But I must thank you, Senator Daramodu Yemi, the Senate spokesperson.
Generally.
Thank you, sir, for coming on the program. I must appreciate you. Thank you.
Generally, I believe that Nigerians understand and realize our contributions to national development.
Thank you.
But we on our own are not the ones who award the marks.
All right. Thank you for your thought. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on the program, by the way. I appreciate it.
Thank you, my dear.
All right. So we will take a quick break. When we come back after this break, we'll get to the conversation around Edo State. Join us again. Welcome back. And this time we shift gears from the issue of the state of the polity with the National Assembly to the issue of Edo State. If you've not been following, there has been an issue in Edo State that has to do with the PDP. A court ruled some days ago over the primaries that brought in Asue Godalo, who is the governorship candidate of that particular party. And that had generated a lot of conversation in the polity. And the party said they will proceed to appeal that judgment because the court questioned the process that brought him in. And there are different interpretations, whether it's still the candidate, is not the candidate, and all of that. But as far as we know, they are appealing that judgment, and they've spoken at their next meeting, or the meeting they held as far as the Governorship Campaign Council is concerned, from the party level even to the state level. Let's now have on the program Mr. Andrew Mwata, who is the former Commissioner for Communication and a counsel. In that particular case, Mr. Andrew joins us from our Abuja studio. Also joining us via Zoom is Mr. Dan Osa Ogbege, he's the spokesman of Aswe Ogie Campaign Management Council and also a legal practitioner. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's a pleasure to see you this evening, Jeffrey.
All right, so the reason, if you notice, I was very careful in concluding what the law or the judgment said. But let me come to you, Mr. Nwata. You were in court, you were privy to this, and there's been some, narrative being taken on as far as that judgment is concerned. So what is the true picture of the judgment?
Thank you. Just as you have noted, the courts in that particular case made a pronouncement concerning 381 delegates who won election as ad hoc delegates to elect the PDP candidate on the 22nd of February this year. And remember, that same court had given an order on the 16th And by that order, it told PDP to come and show cause why these 381 persons should be excluded. But the party went ahead in disobedience of that court order and excluded these persons. And as God will have it, on that special day, which is 4th of July, the court made that pronouncement that these are the validly elected delegates. And you know, in the Bible, it is written in Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1, that to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose. That was a day of glory. It was the day of reckoning for those who deprived those 381 persons from electing the candidate of the PDP. And the legal implication of that is simple. If you look at page 34 of that judgment, the court said categorically that Exhibit PDP-1, which was a list of those who elected Aswa Ighodalo, was an invalid document because of the fact that it was manufactured by two persons. Two persons signed the results for 192 words, unlike our own exhibits BID 8A to 8L, which include the results of all those persons that were validly elected at the Congress of the PDP that took place on the 4th of February 2024. And those results were signed by both the returning officer and the electoral officers appointed by the PDP. When you juxtapose that with the exhibit presented by PDP on behalf of Ighodalo, you discover that those results were concussions, mere concussions. The result for Oredu was not signed. In some instances, only the governor of Anambra was chairman of that committee signed some results. And in some instances, the secretary could sign with him. And they wrongly labeled it because when you look at the electoral guidelines of the PDP, it was a 3 delegates ad hoc World Congress, but they labeled theirs as local government by local government election results. And you know, there's no proper way to do the wrong thing. When you talk of rigging, that election was rigged. That Congress was rigged. And that is what Justice Eko discovered by his findings and ruled that the only authentic delegates that were supposed to participate in the election were those 381 persons.
No, land on your thoughts.
By virtue of that pronouncement, PDP does not have a candidate because the people that went to Ugbe Stadium on the 22nd of February were actually people not known to law.
All right, let me take it to Mr. Ogbege. Mr. Ogbege, you're also a lawyer, so maybe you give us your own interpretation of what it is, because from the documents we see and the CTC and all of that from his submission, it appears that you will have to tell us what it is. He has told us the side of the story, but he is saying that the people that elected Aswa Ighodalo as a candidate of the party were not the people that want to be delegates in that particular election.
When I heard that my friend Adaze Mata was the one that's going to come from the other side, I was actually happy because I thought that he would finally have the opportunity to apologize to Nigerians and to Edo people for misleading a whole nation. And because of his misleading interview that he gave just after the court proceeding on Thursday, Nigerian pressmen media were misled to further misinform Nigerians. Now, we saw the CTC of the judgment on Friday, and there was nowhere it was mentioned that the candidate of the PDP was disqualified or that the primaries held on the 22nd of February was declared void by the court. There was nowhere. What the court heard were order of mandamus telling the PDP not to unlawfully disallow those plaintiffs from participating in the primary election of 22nd of February. That was what the court heard purely. And, you know, at the risk of, commenting on a judgment that is going to be on appeal, as lawyers, we are not really competent to talk about judgment of the court and start talking about it on national TV like this. But just to correct the impression that the APC and other opposition figures are creating in the media so that people will not be misled, the court did not in any way hold that the PDP had no candidate. It did not. The judgment of the court at best was academic because the court was giving an order of mandamus for an action that had already been completed. So there was nothing to enforce in that judgment. But the judgment was completely empty.
Okay, but I understand you are appealing. Okay, I understand you are appealing that judgment. So what are you appealing?
Yeah, what we are appealing is that the court did not even have jurisdiction to entertain that matter at all. The court did not have jurisdiction. So it is a point of jurisdiction. In fact, the PDP had 8 cases, and they are all like-minded cases. And out of these 8 cases, 3 of them were in the courts of this particular court, and 2 of them have been dispensed with the court holding that it lacked jurisdiction, and that only aspirants had the right or the locus to challenge outcome of primaries. So why was this one different? It was a bit curious to see that the court went ahead to give judgment in the way it gave this judgment. But even at that, the judgment cannot be enforced because the primary election had already been conducted.
Mr. Ogbege, let me take it back to Mr. Nwata. Mr. Nwata, 2 issues here. He's arguing that the case is already status barred. That is his argument. So I would like to know when it was instituted, and as a lawyer, is it status barred? Second, there is this recurrent reference to Section 84 of the Constitution that has to do with who has local standard to institute a suit when it comes to governorship primary. Mr. Nwata,
thank you, Geoffrey. I think I'll start by saying that there's a whole world of difference between a vehicle manufacturer and a mechanic. And I think Nigerians will know what I mean when I proceed. My friend who is a lawyer, I don't know how long he is at the bar, will say mandamus. It was not a prerogative writ, but the court granted an order of mandatory injunction. So a lawyer should know the difference between a prerogative writ, which is an order of mandamus compelling the public officer to do a duty. PDP is not a public officer in that context, but a mandatory injunction was given in that case. And just to also correct the impression, he talked about an earlier decision of Justice Ekwa, and I think I'll quickly explain the difference between that one and this present case. That first case was brought by Hadiza Umoru, who was an aspirant, challenging the outcome of the Delegates Congress. And what the court said, an aspirant in the primaries cannot challenge a delegate Congress wherein she was not a delegate. It is only a delegate that can challenge the outcome of a delegate Congress. And they celebrated that judgment. Oh, the courts gave a beautiful judgment. The judiciary is the last of a copper man. Now the judiciary has not considered a case involving delegates and said only a delegate can bring that action. And you see him now approbating and reprobating. The case is simple. We were not out to challenge the PDP primaries because at the time we went to court, there was no PDP primaries. There was no Aswa Ihodalo in the Anek Portal because it was just a mere aspirant. But by the time the court gave the order, there was still no primaries, but they went ahead to do the primaries. They thought because it was a completed act, the court cannot pronounce on the validity of the people who were supposed to participate in that election. And the easiest way to explain this is this. In 2020, Obaseki had a free ride. And I liken Obaseki as somebody who built on PDP's land, right? He was given a ticket on a platter of gold, and in 2023, having built a very beautiful house, he still laid claim as the owner of the house. And in law, there's a principle that says, quid plantator solo cedit. Whatever is built on the land belongs to that land. The court has now pronounced that these ad hoc delegates are the owners of the land, and Obaseki is still laying claim to the house. And in law, once a court gives judgment as to the ownership of the land, the house automatically belongs to the owner of the land. So to now talk of a PDP ticket in the hands of Aswe, I mean, that is logical fallacy, right? Because the court has said, Exhibit PDP 1 in page 34 of that CTC of the judgment was a document manufactured by 2 persons, as opposed to our Exhibit BID 8A to 8L that was signed by every electoral officer at the various wards. The court discountenanced that document that PDP tendered as a document not worth the sort of an election result, because the electoral guidelines stipulate how the Congress election results should look like. And I think it's a lesson for political parties to obey their rules. When we talk of internal democracy, it means that we must play according to rules. There's nothing like internal affairs of a party. When you exclude 387 members of your party, cutting across 127 wards, cutting across 12 local governments,
all right, Mr.
and that is rigging.
If I may
excluded these persons, there's no way that process can stand.
We're running out of time, so let me take it to Mr. Ogbege. Mr. Ogbege, I want you to speak to that issue of signing, two persons signing their signature on all of the, is it delegate list now? Maybe you speak to that based on what we saw in that document.
I do not think that's the appropriate question that should be asked here. The point is very clear. What Adaze Mata ought to be answering now is to show us where in that judgment, where the court made pronouncement that the PDP did not have a candidate, or that the primary election of 22nd of February was nullified. There's nowhere in that judgment. And instead of the young man to apologize, he's grandstanding on national television. He has misinformed the entire nation, and he's talking about when I was called to the bar. He knows when he was in BIU, I was already a lawyer with my own law firm. He knows that. So when you come to national TV to grandstand, it's rather unfortunate. I think there will be consequences. There will be consequences for a lawyer to deliberately, misinform the public about proceedings in court just to score cheap political points.
So Mr. Ogbege, so what was the pronouncement enforceable decision of court if it wasn't nullification of Aswe Godalo's candidacy?
It is not nullification. If it was nullification, the court will say it was nullification. It is clear. It said these people should not be unlawfully disallowed from participating in the primaries. But the primary had already been done February 22nd. So that means the judgment was essentially an academic judgment, to put it mildly. It was essentially an academic judgment. So there's nowhere in that judgment where the primaries was nullified. There's nowhere in it.
Mr. Wata, your last take on this. He said there's nowhere in that judgment where the primaries were nullified. He's saying that the only thing that he said that they should not. Just hold on, Mr. Ogbege. Let him respond to what you alluded.
I cited a particular page. I said page 34. The document which is Exhibit PDP-1 they use in electing elsewhere, the court nullified that document. You cannot put something upon nothing and expect it to stay there to collapse. And why are they appealing? They should apologize to Nigerians. They said that the document is an academic document. They said the issue of Aswe's election is not affected. Then why are they appealing? Initially, they said they were not going to go on appeal, but the chairman of their campaign council, the governor of Adamawa, knowing the danger, and the man said that they are in serious trouble, that there's a big challenge, and that is why he feels that they will appeal that decision. And I think they must apologize to Nigerians, because if there's really nothing in the judgment, then why are you appealing?
So, Mr. Wata, sorry, my apologies, please.
The DG of their campaign called me. Then if there's no problem, then why are they calling me? Why are you calling me? Why is the DG speaking to me for one
just a minute. I want to have your input on this particular one. So now that the court has decided...
They should stop calling me, but appeal the decision.
They said they will appeal the decision. They said they are appealing the decision based on jurisdiction. I think I heard him clearly on that one. So
that's a big lie.
As a lawyer,
the court has made a pronouncement on the issue of if they had a valid delegate list. They had a forged manufactured delegate list, which the court threw into the garbage can of history.
So the question I wanted to ask is, in your view, does it mean that a primary should be done again? Or what is it that you want?
They've lost the opportunity. Because when you build on my land, the house belongs to me.
All right, Mr. Ogbege, your last take as we wrap up.
I think my advice is for the...
It be consequences for a lawyer to come and grandstand. If he had come to apologize for misinforming the country and for political reasons, that would have been understandable. But now he came, he could not show us anywhere in that judgment where the court heard that the PDP primaries was nullified or that it was voided or that the PDP did not have a candidate. I want to tell Nigerians, Asue Ighodalo remains the candidate of the PDP. His candidacy was not in question. His candidacy was not touched in any way by the judgment of the court. There was no order as to his candidacy. He remains the candidate of the PDP.
I want to thank you both for coming to the program. We're totally out of time. Mr. Andrew Nwata, former Commissioner for Communication, Edo State, as well as a lawyer, and Dan Osa Ogbege, spokesperson of Asue Ogie Campaign Management Council, and also a lawyer. Gentlemen, I must thank you both. Thank you for coming on the program.
Hey, gentlemen, thanks for having me.
And that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzongo. Goodbye.